Alrighty, welcome back everyone. So today we're doing a very last minute top 10 LR ranking vid as we get set for the Transcendent Dokkan campaign, which of course will begin in a few hours from now, and with it we will be getting a new Dokkan Fest LR tag Golden Frieza and Gogeta. But before they release and before the celebration begins and everything, today I figured it would be fun to reflect on who the top 10 LRs are going into the celebration, at least in my opinion, especially because once this character is in game, I am almost 100% certain that they will be taking one of the top 10 spots for themselves. But before that happens today, we'll go ahead and just see who the top 10 LRs are going into the celebration. We already have everything set up here, including the top 10 LRs. And then in a few weeks later, I'll do probably like a follow-up vid seeing how the list changes and everything. But today, we have everything set up, ready to go. You probably already know all these different characters right here. But yeah, I'm so excited for this. Hopefully you guys will enjoy the vid. If you do, show your support down below, drop a like, subscribe to the channel, comment down below your thoughts. Let me know, what do you guys think about the top 10 list and everything, who are your top 5 LRs. These types of lists and everything are typically kind of controversial and questionable, so let me know if you guys agree or disagree in the comments down below. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So let's start off with the number 10 spot. Number 10 is going to be going to AGL Super Gogeta from the 10th anniversary. Now, it has been a while since my last tier list. If you guys have seen my previous ones in the past though, you will know I love Super Gogeta. In the past, I would be saying he's arguably a top 2 character, and even today, I still love this character, and I think he is a bit more underappreciated than he deserves to be. However, with all the meta shifts, with all the different bosses, and of course the 5 new LRs from the GDC celebration, I do believe number 10 is an appropriate and still a respectable spot for Gogeta to be in, especially because this character starts off as Super Saiyan Vegeta. Now, let's talk about the positives, right? Overall, this character is still very powerful, going to beat a lot of content for you, and there's still some really good things right here. For one, the lead is awesome still. Fused Fighters, Pure Saiyans, fantastic. Vegeta stacking attack, Goku can stack defense, it's all really awesome right there. And also, a bunch of categorical diversity because of the tag mechanic between Goku and Vegeta, which is all really awesome. However, the problem is this part of Vegeta's kit right here, where basically Vegeta is meant to be a slot 2, slot 3 character. However, his best defensive mechanics are his stats and guard, and that's all he can do for defensive power. Now, in the past, during his release, that was okay, it wasn't the best, but it was fine. Nowadays, we have so many different bosses with AoEs, so many different bosses who can lock you in a certain slot or something. Certain bosses like Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta in the GDC, where he will do supers in slot 2 and slot 3 for super stupid amounts of damage, which Vegeta can't really tank. Now, a lot of times, he can tank it somewhat maybe, but at best, he's tanking it to the point where you're almost at like 5% or 0% HP, almost basically like losing your entire run. So Vegeta himself is a very seriously flawed iteration of this entire unit. If Vegeta was not a picture of this, like not a part of this picture, this character will be so much better. But Vegeta is still basically the anchor that weighs this down, and it does really hurt because I love Super Gogeta, but yeah, Vegeta is not really great. Now Goku's a bit better, stacking defense is nice, of course. He's a slot 1 character. I am a firm believer that Goku will be one of the better aging individual unit designs from the 10th anniversary. However, he is still a character who is a dodge or die character, so if you're facing certain fights like recently where we have dodge nullification, Goku can't access his best defensive mechanic, in which case he is basically fish food, so that can be a problem right there. But the actives, those are really beautiful and still very powerful to this day. The Vacuum Fusion, the Ghost Usher, really awesome stuff, and Super Gogeta, I mean, I can say so much about Super Gogeta. Like, if we're talking about the individual fusions, I will say right now, Super Gogeta, if there was no other part of this character besides the fusion himself, Gogeta would probably be like a top 5 character to me on his own still, maybe to this day, and even now I'll say, I personally like the Super Gogeta fusion design more than Super Vegito in terms of the gameplay. I really do believe that. So, for me, I really do love Super Gogeta's design. I will say, for me personally, I have never had a situation where Super Gogeta has taken damage more than double digits from anything, from a super, from normal, from an AoE. Nothing has done more damage than double digits. And really, it's a combination of things. For one, he's massively raising attack and defense for 1 turn. So that is going to boost his stats tremendously because he's doing additionals and everything. It's really good stuff. Also, built-in guard, 60% damage reduction, right? All those stuff are really good, a bunch of ultra supers and everything. He's got a bunch of stats, and also right here for every Rainbow Key Sphere, he's boosting his damage reduction. This combined with what he has already can make him tank extremely well. So all of that is very powerful. And the thing is, another thing that I really do love about this character, which doesn't get enough credit, I feel like, is again this nullifying negative effects. I've said it in previous vids. This ability to just say, no, I don't care about your gimmick is so powerful. Denying slot locking, denying sealing, stunning. That is so powerful. That is so awesome in terms of what Gogeta can do. So, I really do love what he has to offer there. The Scouter is great, it's all really awesome. But also, he has this active skill. And this active skill will forever, in my opinion, have a bunch of value, because even if Gogeta ages out, he will still be able to use this active to serve as a battery for your other really awesome characters, because he's giving all allies 54% to stats, and this includes himself, so he will be making himself even more tanky in the specific turn that he uses his active. He's doing the orb changing, so yeah, I mean, this character's insane. Gogeta is really awesome. It's just Vegeta. If Vegeta was not a part of this kit, then I think Gogeta will be several spots higher at bare minimum. But yeah, it is what it is. Gogeta is a temporary fusion, so all those things have to be considered. And again, I think number 10 is a proper spot for him to be in. Now moving on to the number 9 spot, let's stick with the 10th anniversary and bring in Tech Super Vegito. Now already I can assume some people are probably going to say that Super Vegito should be a bit higher than where he is. But for me, I think number 9 is still a fine spot, and I think he and Gogeta should go kind of hand in hand. They should be kind of right next to each other in terms of their performance, their ability, their overall strengths and weaknesses. I think they kind of exist in the same threshold in that sense. But when we talk about Super Vegito, right now, I said earlier, I like Super Gogeta's design more than Super Vegito. We'll talk about that more in just a sec. But really, it's the base form that has Vegito higher for me, because Super Saiyan Goku and Super Saiyan Vegeta, the base forms, overall, especially the Goku, so much better than AGL Super Saiyan Vegeta. So much better. Now, the base concept is the same. Goku stacks attack, Vegeta stacks defense. Vegeta's a slot 1 character, Goku's a slot 2, slot 3. But there are some differences, right? For one, with the lead, even though they both cover Fused Fires and Pure Saiyans, Goku, here, Vegito, they cover Earth Protecting Heroes, which brings you in characters like Beast Gohan, Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, Bojack Gohan, all sorts of characters like that. So that's really helpful right there. Besides that, Goku is far better in terms of his role, right? Being slot 2, slot 3, but he wants to have slot 2, slot 3 for a bunch of damage reduction, up to 90% in slot 2 and slot 3, where I will say, even now I do find him taking several 100,000 in terms of damage, but that is still a decent amount of HP to still have, because nowadays with the current teams and everything, you probably have on average 700,000 to 900,000 HP, right? So if you have that much HP, taking 300 to 400,000, you will still have a good amount of HP to play with that you will still survive. So even now, though Goku can take some damage, he still is tanking, in my opinion, still a lot better than AGL Vegeta. So that alone is enough to justify this part of the character like Vegito being a bit higher in that sense. But we still have more to talk about, right? Because obviously the damage reduction is good, but also Vegeta, right? The thing about Vegeta is he is a slot 1 character with a bunch of damage reduction, but also guard. So he is really good at tanking. Dodge nullification, the dodge nullifying is not going to screw with him. And also he can stack defense, which again is really helpful. So, really powerful stuff in the grand scheme of things. But when we talk about the actives, this is where things can get a bit back and forth. For me, this active is probably the worst of the Gogeta ones and the Vegito ones, where, yes, is it good? Of course, it gives permanent ki, permanent stats, and permanent guard against all attacks in battle. But I just don't see myself, almost always, I rarely justify using this as opposed to using Super Vegito, other than if I just decide, hey, you know what, I want to just see it happen one time. That's really all there is for me. When it comes to the Veku fusion and everything, the Veku fail fusion, I can use that active and be more certain about using that compared to this. When it comes to this character, I feel like almost always I choose to go with a Goku fusion, go into Super Vegito, and then cook from there with Super Vegito with what he can do. Now with Super Vegito, really powerful stuff, still got the guard, still got 60% damage reduction, still has the scouter, pretty similar to Super Gogeta, but there are a few differences. For one, he can counter normals, he can boost his attack by 10% within a turn for every attack he's receiving, and his active gives him a taunt. And for all the players out there who love taunt, you already know those types of players, they will live and die by this mechanic, and for good reason. I absolutely get it. The taunt is basically one free turn of almost guaranteed safety. However, even during my taunt turns, I have had experiences where Super Vegito, I'll, turn 5, I'll automatically transform him because we're doing a short form Byron or like a boss or anything. I'll transform him, get the taunt and everything, and then he will still take damage even with this taunt, even with the defensive boost and everything, he'll still take damage. And it's come on, you should be able to do a bit better than that. But, to be fair, Vegito, if you don't stack the defense beforehand, Vegito can get hurt here and there, which I don't like about that, but overall, you know, he's really meant to be an offensive powerhouse, you know, doing crazy amounts of damage, all the counters and everything. So that's all well and good. But to be fair, you know, if we're talking about like the, you know, the pros and cons, there are certain fights lately, like the Rose fight, you know, Rose Masu, where they were fights that would kind of inhibit Vegito's ability to cook because his own kit will be acting as something that kind of backfires on him. So there's certain things to kind of consider in that sense. And also, I mean, similar to Gogeta, Vegito is also only for 4 turns. So you're talking about the best parts of the characters only being temporary. If they were permanent, I mean, even the development team said during the 10th anniversary that these characters were too broken to be permanent versions. But if they were permanent, they would be so much better. Right now, I think number 9 is fine for Super Vegito, number 10 for Gogeta. You know, that's perfectly fine for me. Now let's talk about number 8. And number 8, I'm gonna be honest, we're keeping with the 10th anniversary. Number 8 is gonna be going to Super Saiyan 4 Goku. I know people are gonna be mad with me putting Super Saiyan 4 Goku above Super Vegito, maybe Super Gogeta as well, but especially Super Vegito. This right here, that's probably gonna cause a lot of problems. But let's talk about Super Saiyan 3, Super Saiyan 4 Goku. First of all, understand it starts off with Super Saiyan 3 Goku, the lead, you know, covering Giant Power, so not the best lead in the world, but still, you know, some good stuff right there. But the thing about this character is with the passive, right, the base effect, this character has built-in crit chance, you know, has a good amount of support to offer for Power Beyond Super Saiyan allies, but this is the important thing. For the first 4 turns from the character's entry, right, he has built-in dodge chance and guard, and also he's a character who in general you want to put in slot 2 or slot 3 anyways to ensure his survivability. So a lot of people have been really in love with this character as of late because of his ability to dodge, survive, keep things pushing, and then eventually he can transform into the Great Ape, go into Super Saiyan 4, and then just get into work, get cooking, clock in, and do his job. And that is, I think, a pretty accurate assessment about this character. For me, I've said it in the past, I still stand by this opinion that Super Saiyan 3, Super Saiyan 4 Goku is probably the best aging character of 2025. The year is still not over, so we'll have to kind of wait and see, but overall, this character has been aging so well with all the different things that have been coming out lately, especially all the GT things from a few weeks ago with GTC. This character is fantastic. But yeah, I mean, you know, the base form is still really good. Of course, you know, dodge nullification will hurt him a good bit, but still, you know, he's a character where he gets a bunch of stats for every 3 key, guard and everything that will help, additional supers and everything will help, and also when you can dodge, that can be pretty helpful as well. Now, the Great Ape transformation, this is kind of like the icing on the cake of the overall unit, because this, for like 1 turn, you get a turn where basically Great Ape transformation, nothing can go wrong, and it can happen from turn 5 or when HP is 70% or less, which is, you know, pretty nice right there. Again, only for 1 turn. Once the turn is over, automatically you go into Super Saiyan 4. You don't have to meet a certain condition, you just transform and bam, you're getting Super Saiyan 4 Goku. Once you go into Super Saiyan 4 Goku, again, he's cooking, he's clocking in because he's you know, he's stacking attack and defense, he's providing support for several turns, he's giving damage reduction buff to Power Beyond Super Saiyan or Giant Power allies, which is really awesome. Guaranteed guard, right? You know, he's got guaranteed crits for the first few turns, but also he's boosting his stats, he's got HP recovery, he's permanently boosting his ki and crit chance with his kit. So with this character especially, you don't need to put an ounce of crit chance into his build. You can go full dodge if you want to play it safe, and you'll be good. And this is a character who, again, you pretty much want to put him with slot 2 or slot 3 anyways, and especially now with GT, he has so many powerful characters to work with, right? You know, we're talking about things like the physical Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta right there, and the Super Saiyan 4s, Agil, Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta recently, right? You know, Super Saiyan 4 Super Easy A Goku, characters like that. So he is really powerful, very awesome, very fun, and I think in the grand scheme of things, given the teams, given how he's able to work, given what is needed of him, he has been excelling in his role so much to the point that I am perfectly comfortable with him at the number 8 spot on this top 10 list of ultimate power beasts right here. Alright, moving on to the number 7 spot, let's bring him in here, the Tech Super Saiyan Gods. And matter of fact, let's bring in number 6 as well, the Physical Super Saiyan 4s. Now, ever since the GTC celebration, I think almost everyone will agree Physical Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta is going to be better than the Tech Super Saiyan Gods. However, I want to talk about both simultaneously because they are very similar in terms of design, especially in the base form, right? Where in the base form, they both greatly raise attack and defense, and they do a bunch of additional supers, allowing them to do a bunch of stacking for crazy defensive and offensive stat quantities, which is really important. On top of that, both have a very powerful intro where for the first 7 turns, they have guaranteed guard, but also for the first turn, both units will have 77% damage reduction on top of the guard. What does this mean? Well, basically, for the first turn they show up in, whether you need them slot 1, slot 2, slot 3, they will tank almost anything that is thrown their way. I will admit I've had them take damage at some points in time, but that's really only in slot 1 against some of the crazy hard-hitting bosses before they do their supers, right? Once they do their supers especially, nothing is going to harm them in that first turn. But really, you know, both of these characters, especially with their intro thing, it is so impactful. It is so huge. And this alone is probably one of the biggest reasons why both characters overall are highly valued, especially compared to things like the 10th anniversary fusions for a lot of players, especially myself, where really, if this was not existent, then I would probably not even have them on this list. But this is so clutch. This makes them work in that first turn they show up in. It allows them to stack, and then eventually they'll be able to fuse, right? For both characters, they can fuse or like transform starting from turn 4 in the fight, which is really early and it's very helpful. Now, when we go into the fused parts of the characters, right? Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta and the Super Saiyan Blues. Let's start with the Super Saiyan Blues. They can do a crazy amount of damage output, especially if you've done some stacking, which is all well and good. But the thing about this character is they are slightly different from Gogeta in that they are focused on dodge. So right here you can see they have a medium chance to dodge right here, and also they can boost their dodge chance by 10% for every rainbow key sphere that they obtain. So they're really focused on dodge. That is all well and good, except for fights where dodge is nullified. So dodge nullification can hinder the value of this character, especially in terms of them being a slot 1 option. So they'll have the guard, but you know, guard and dodge, they don't necessarily work hand in hand, because guard, it's all about you tanking what's being thrown your way. Dodge is about you basically avoiding what's being thrown your way. So they don't really overlap with each other. It's more like the guard serves a defensive bonus in case this doesn't work out. But yeah, I mean, the dodge is really well and good, and it's really nice, don't get me wrong. It's just that with all the fights that do so much damage, with all the fights that can nullify dodge and things of that nature, me personally, I don't really like this part of the kit compared to what we will see with Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, where with Gogeta, he has the guard, he has what he can do right here, but also for every rainbow key sphere he's obtaining, he's boosting his damage reduction, and right here, look at this, he has a built-in scouter. This is really clutch, especially because Gogeta is a character where he has a great chance to nullify and counter a super, so he wants to hunt down the super and probably counter it and do what he can do there. He has a bunch of damage reduction in general, or changing just like the Super Saiyan Blues. They are very similar, I will say that in terms of design, but given what they can do, I like Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta a lot more. Also, it is important to note, Gogeta's value is significantly higher because of the fact that the GDC celebration has given him a bunch of powerful characters like AGL Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, who just links perfectly. So having those extra kind of characters makes him so much more powerful in the grand scheme of things, right? You look at Super Saiyan Goku right here from the GDC celebration, or Super Saiyan Blue Goku, I should say. He is able to link really well with the tech gods, but it's still not perfect compared to, for example, Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. So, you know, GT, especially with the GDC celebration, GT has been eating so good. So that just allows Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta to have so many options in his corner, a bunch of support, a bunch of powerhouses next to him. He's just eating so good, especially compared to the Super Saiyan Blues. Gogeta is just really enjoying himself. So for me, I think number 6 is a good spot for Gogeta, number 7 for the Blues. This seems really good for me so far. Now moving on to our top 5, and lo and behold, we got the latest LRs, right? The top 5 being the GDC LRs, part EX with Gohan. But if you ask me, I think all of them do deserve to be in this position. Could you move like one of these characters higher? You could do that perhaps, but I think overall, all 5 of these characters are top 5, no question. And I gotta give props to GDC real quick, because they made sure every one of these like premier characters are bangers, and that is exactly what players wanted, I feel like, and I think they did a good job there, as we see right here. So let's start off with number 5. Number 5, I think some people are gonna hate me for this. Number 5 is gonna be Super Saiyan Gohan, Goten, and Trunks. So let's go ahead and just look at these kids right here. So the thing about this character is this character has an extremely high ceiling. For some people, the ceiling is so high that it makes them the number 1 unit. But also overall, I will say on average, I don't think this character is nearly as good as some people may like to think they are in the grand scheme of things. Now, don't get me wrong, this character is still very powerful. Leader skill covering Hybrid Saiyans, Youth, Defender of Justice, some really niche categories, so really do love that they're helping out some other kind of niche options right there. You know, they have some great stuff right here. Gohan, crazy amount of support right there, which is really awesome. When you go into Goten and Trunks especially, crazy amount of damage output. I mean, if you guys have just seen any sort of vid just showcasing them, you will know what I'm talking about. They can do a great amount of damage output. However, this character is kind of dependent on the characters that you bring alongside them in the team, especially Goten and Trunks, where For Goten and Trunks, you want hybrid Saiyans to boost their defense, right? But also, you basically want almost a full team, not even almost, you want a full team of youth category allies to boost their dodge chance and to especially boost their attack output. If you're bringing in a bunch of hybrid Saiyans but they're not youth characters, the damage output is going to look pretty pathetic for this side of the character. So this is just an example of, again, you have to bring certain types of allies to really maximize the value of this character. I've said it, in previous vids talking about this character. The beautiful thing about this character, which is kind of like a double-edged sword, is they are really good at making other youth category characters and hybrid Saiyan characters really good, and the youth characters and the other teammates in turn will make them really good. But if you don't have really good youth category allies on your team and stuff, then it can be a bit of a problem. Now, Goten and Trunks, with their active, they can give a nice bit of support to youth category allies, but this is only for youth allies, not hybrid Saiyans, so that's kind of tough, of course. And then for Gohan, I mean, he does have the orb changing right here, which can help him get more support, but again, he wants another hybrid Saiyans or bonded parent and child ally on the team. Pretty easy to meet this sort of stuff, especially when he leads hybrid Saiyans, but you need to have the right kind of allies to really see this team come to fruition. When you look at youth specifically, right, you're probably going to want the recent EZA for Super Saiyan 2 Gohan right here, obviously the new LR. You may want physical Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, maybe not. Gotenks is really good in a lot of situations depending on the fight. Path Power Goku can be pretty good in a lot of situations. You want characters like them, Super EZA, Goten and Trunks, maybe STR Pan. Those are the characters that you want to look for or to have, even like Kid Goku right here from Saiyan Day Celebration, where if you have those characters, then yeah, this character will be awesome for you, like several spots higher. But if you're like on average, you probably may not have all of them, then this character is not going to feel nearly as like consistent and powerful compared to the other 4 on this list. So for me, despite the categorical diversity shown by this character, despite how fun the character is, I will say that, I think number 5 is a good spot for Gohan, Goten, and Trunks. So yeah, number 5 for them. All right, number 4, this is where things get a bit tricky, I'm not gonna lie. Number 4, I'm actually gonna go ahead, I hate to put him here because I do love this character, Omega Shenron. Omega Shenron is going to be number 4. I think number 4 is a good spot for him. Honestly, like if you ask me, in terms of fun, Omega Shenron might be like number 2 in terms of fun. Like I really enjoy running Omega Shenron and his team. If this was like a tier list on fun and stuff, Omega might be number 2, maybe number 1 in sometimes. I'm not gonna lie. But Omega, right? The thing about Omega is they did so much justice to this character. He's supposed to be the final boss of GT, and they made it right. GT bosses, power absorption, inhuman deeds. He has a lot of powerful like allies on his teams, and also when you look at what he can do, 18 key, AoE super, disable enemy action, boosting defense and everything, he has a bunch of support to offer to allies, which is really helpful right there. A bunch of damage reduction with a rainbow key sphere. He's giving allies defensive boost right there and damage reduction, just like AGL Super Saiyan 4 Goku. And for characters also in GT bosses, this is for 2 turns. So if you're running double, Shenron lead, you could be getting 20% buff right there for the turn. So that could be even better. So this character has a bunch of support to offer, really awesome stuff. And when receiving a melee super, he has a chance to nullify and counter. But yeah, this character is really, really awesome. And he has a nice domain, I will say that, only for 3 turns, which is not that long. Very helpful stuff in the grand scheme of things. But really, the beautiful thing that makes Shenron cook so well is the fact that he has so many powerful allies in his teams. When you look at Inhuman Deeds, for example, right? You're talking about the new Gogeta, the Golden Frieza and Gogeta, who are going to be coming very soon, but also you have Rose Masu, you have Broly's, you have Great Ape Vegeta, you have all these different characters. So all those different characters make Omega so powerful, so much better than like if you didn't have those characters, Omega would kind of falter. But I mean, especially with them on his side, Omega is just doing so much work. It is so amazing what he can do. And honestly, again, he is so fun to use. I have significantly enjoyed using him, even more so than running Rose Masu teams, which I don't have Rose Masu, but running him, I've enjoyed Omega a lot more than Blue Goku. I really do love this character. But number 4, I think, is the right spot for him in terms of what he can do, because even though he can do a lot of support, even though he can bring in a lot of powerful characters together, he himself can take some damage, and there are certain situations where his own kit can get the best of him, like a bit of a gimmicky fight with the Gogeta clones, where you're not supposed to attack the clones, otherwise you'll take significant damage, but he does an AoE super, which in turn will basically just cause you to get significant damage all the time. So, certain things like that can be a bit of a problem, but it is worth noting. Anyways, moving on to number 3. Number 3, let's bring the Master of Future saga with Goku Black, Super Saiyan Rose, Goku Black right here, Rose Masu. I think, man, I really do love this character. I wish I had Rose Masu, but they are just so powerful, especially Super Saiyan Rose. Rose, especially alongside Omega, they are just a super powerful dynamic duo where Rose, he is able to work in slot 1, right? So when you look at his kit right here, there's nothing limiting him to being a slot 1, slot 2, or slot 3 character. However, when you look at his kit, when you have extreme class comps or future saga and everything, he has guard and he can get up to 60% damage reduction. The combination of the two automatically makes him a character who was able to exist in slot 1, just automatically. So very helpful right there. Also, he's giving a bunch of support for other allies who have the name Goku Black in their name and everything. He is like a very simple kit, you can look at it, and it is still so powerful. And also, he's stacking attack greatly. So the attack stacking makes him do even more damage, which already the man can do a lot of damage. Let's be for real. This man, he does a lot of damage, but also he's giving support to allies. He just has a lot of value. And also his active can give a bunch of support for super boss characters, which is the team that he wants to run with. So that can be very helpful as well, you know, doing more damage, badass OST and everything. If you're like judging off that, you know, like me, Rose, I can't speak enough praise about him. He's really awesome. When you go to Zamasu, I will admit Zamasu is kind of iffy. The thing about Zamasu here is, and I think my internet just kind of gave out there. There we go. The thing about Zamasu is he does have the HP recovery is nice and all, but he is a weird kind of design character in the sense that he doesn't have the defensive capabilities that you want from what we saw from Rose. So he has guard, yes, but he has this ability to give allies damage reduction buff. That includes himself, right? But it doesn't have nearly enough of what you want. So really, Zamasu is kind of like a slot 2, probably a slot 3 character to be honest. And he has some good things to offer where, you know, the stats and everything. He also can do, you know, additionals and stuff with the 20 or more key. But this is a character that's kind of weak compared to what Goku Black can do. And his active is still cool, you know, this is really nice because he can boost your character's attack by 40% in battle. But compared to Rose, like Rose is what really makes this character so good, what makes him tick. And him alone is so powerful. For me, this character, this version of the character alone is so good, he has to be number 3. I would be a fool, in my opinion, to put him below top 5. He's just that powerful. Like, you look at any other tier list, you will see the same thing. He is loved by so many. So he's really awesome there. But now, let's move on to top 2. And this is where things can get a bit interesting because I know who I love more and I know who I want to glaze more, but I also know what is probably the right answer. And I think for the sake of being more accurate, I'm going to do the right answer here. Number 1 is going to be Super Saiyan Blue Goku. Number 2, let's put him here, Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. In recent memory, this would have been the case right here. But after, you know, GDC Party X and everything and some stuff that's happened, I think this is the most appropriate kind of placement. And to be fair, even during Gogeta's era, right, part 2 of GDC, you could have an argument for both being number 1 because of certain things you want to push above the other. But I think overall, this is the proper order of things. Let's go ahead and talk about it. So starting off with Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, right? Gogeta right here. The thing about Gogeta is he is individually so consistent and so powerful. He covers a team that's really powerful with GT heroes where there's a bunch of fusions, a bunch of Gogetas, Super Saiyan 4s and everything. The team is very powerful, so he is already covering a very powerful team with a bunch of support and everything. He's boosting his attack. He can do crazy amount of damage output. It's really beautiful what we can do, but this is really awesome right here. So with his intro, right, if you get 2 or more GT allies on the team, which is what you're probably going to do anyways, you'll be able to give a bunch of defensive support to superclass allies for a few turns. Also in his kit, 50% damage reduction, guarding attacks, built-in crit chance, effective against all types, all this sort of stuff right here, additional supers, really powerful stuff. And when he faces a Ki Blast super, he has a great chance to nullify and counter, and it will be guaranteed if our HP is 70% or less. This can be every single time. It doesn't have to be a one-time thing, so that's really helpful. And when you're facing 3 or more attacks in battle after taking it, guaranteed additional starting from the next turn, and after 7 more attacks, more Ki and performs a guaranteed crit. So this character is very straightforward in terms of how he works, and he's very powerful in what he can do. And also, when receiving a super, he's boosting his defense, here. He is very powerful in what he can do, and this active, man, this active is exceptional in terms of what it can do for Gogeta. Massively raising attack, doing awesome amounts of damage, being so beautiful as an active, right, if we're talking about animations, and also 70% to his stats, which means he can do even more damage in the turn. And this can be done so easily, starting from the next turn after he receives an attack, which is the same condition as Beast Gohan from the 9th anniversary. So yeah, very powerful. And just like the physical Super Saiyan 4s, the fact that this character can link with Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, characters like AGL Super Saiyan 4 Goku right here, of course, Super Easy A Goku, All those different things make this character even better because he is in an era where so many other powerful allies happen to be his best friends. So that's what makes him so special, and he also fits onto some very powerful categories like fused fighters and other things like that. You know, very powerful character. You know, I would have said he's number one, but you know, in the grand scheme of things, I do think that overall it's safer to say that the Super Saiyan Blues are number one for a couple of reasons. Let's go ahead and talk about them, right? So number one, Super Saiyan Blues. This is probably the biggest reason, in my opinion, why someone should argue they are number one. The leader skill. Future Saga is what it is, but Fused Fighters is probably easily the best team in the game. When you talk about Fused Fighters, right, understand, Fused Fighters includes Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. It includes, you know, the Part EX, you know, Super Saiyan Gohan, Goten, and Trunks. It includes Rose Masu. It includes 10th Anniversary Super Gogeta, 10th Anniversary Super Vegito. It includes the new Golden Frieza and Gogeta. It includes so many powerful characters, the 7th Year EZAs, Merge Zamasu. There are so many powerful characters who fit into this category alone, and the blue duo, they lead the category. So they themselves are making this team exist, and you know, the extra buff for Bond, Parent, and Child, the final trump card, very, very wide, accessible, you know, Venn diagram type stuff. It's very good. So yeah, I mean, there's not much I have to say in terms of that. That's really powerful. 18 key, greatly raising attack right here. That's really good stuff. Raising allies' defense by 60%, really good, especially because this character, like Rose, you want to put Goku in slot 1. Because Goku, this is what makes him kind of stupid actually in terms of like his design. You know, with a superclass team or the sort of stuff right here, he can get 60% dodge chance as well as 60% damage reduction right here, plus the dodge chance right here. So he can get up to 80% dodge chance and then 70% damage reduction on top of that, just in case you don't dodge. So he has both the ability to take 0 damage and the ability to take very little damage simultaneously just by being on a team of his own design, of his own desires. So, you know, very, very powerful stuff right here. Honestly, I mean, this part right here plus the lead, these are probably the two biggest reasons why I've seen a lot of people say that Goku is better than Gogeta. And, you know, when I look at it and I really think about it holistically, I have to agree. This is very powerful, especially with a lot of fights nowadays where these turn 1 bosses, you know, slot 1, they do so much damage with supers. Goku can say, hey, you know what? I don't care about your damage. I'm just going to dodge that and keep it pushing. And that's it. And so, yeah, this is very powerful stuff right here. You know, turn 4, he can exchange with Vegeta. Of course, Vegeta's kind of iffy, where he can massively raise attack, which is good. But he's kind of meant to be a slot 3 character, which realistically, you know, he doesn't have the best defensive abilities like Goku and stuff. You're better off sticking with Goku. But the active skill does give guard against all attacks. It does give Future Saga buff and everything. So that can be pretty good. For Goku, what Goku does, if I can go back to him, Goku lets you go into the Vegito Blue fusion, which I know a lot of people are still upset about that, but having Vegito Blue is nice because there's a lot of damage and everything, but also it can nullify dodge nullification. Now this, you know, I love this effect with Tech UI Goku from last year. Having it here once again, starting from turn 4, that can be really clutch. That can be very, very helpful, especially in certain fights, like for example, you know, the Part EX Gohan fight where he can nullify dodge. This can make it very helpful to dodge what could otherwise be, you know, game-ending damage. So, you know, really important stuff. And just like other tag characters, a crazy amount of categorical diversity, right? Because you got Goku family and stuff, Vegeta's family, the different kind of tags and everything, the categories. You got Power Beyond Super Saiyan, the Super Saiyan Blue stuff, Siblings Bond, all these different things. It's so powerful. And overall, I mean, you know, if you ask me, in terms of fun, I would say like, I'd probably say put the order like this in terms of fun. Like, let me reorganize this. This is probably like, for me, the order of fun. But in terms of practicality, in terms of what is fair, I think this is for sure how we should rank the top 4 here. Because, yeah, I mean, these characters are just so special. Definitely Super Saiyan Blue Goku, in my opinion, deserves to be number 1. Again, in a few hours, we'll see what Golden Frieza and Gogeta have to say about that. I'm almost 100% sure they will be on this list. In fact, if you ask me, I'm pretty sure they're probably going to be somewhere in the top 4, top 5. But we'll have to wait and see what's going to happen. I'm very excited for that. But yeah, I mean, for me, this is going to be my top 10. So let me know in the comments down below what do you guys think, because that's going to be where we wrap up the vid. My voice is very tired, guys, I gotta be honest. But if you guys enjoyed the vid, show your support again, drop a like down below, subscribe to the channel. Thank you all so much for watching. Again, let me know what you guys think about the whole list in the comments down below. If you agree or disagree, take care, stay blessed, and I will see you all in the next one.